Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Jordan Reviews It.
Welcome back.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a special guest today. We have a very special guest today, ladies and gentlemen. It's the morning after. It's the morning after the election. All the votes are not in, but what we can project is Donald J. Trump is the victor. That is what we can project at this time, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I know some people are upset.
Sorry, bro.
I know some people are elated. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to talk in between the lines. But before I do, I'd like to introduce my guest. Llama, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, name is Jamal Harris. I don't know what y'all need to know about me, man.
No,
I'm a jack of all trades, man.
no PII needed, sir. Who'd you vote for? Let's start with that. Or are you comfortable sharing?
Oh yeah, I don't mind. Of course I voted for Kamala.
Okay. And what was your reasoning behind voting for Kamala?
Look, I had several reasons, but it depends on what angle you want to go with. If we want to talk about policy, I voted for Kamala.
Okay.
If you want to talk about how bad the other candidate was, I voted for Kamala. You could pick whatever reason you want to, and that's exactly why I voted for Kamala.
All right. So very quickly though, like I just I wanted to send out that link so if anybody was interested in joining, they can do that. But you mentioned you voted for Kamala because of policy. And I was wondering if you can share what about her policy stood out most to you?
Um, whatever part of the policy that you want to look at. If you want to talk about the first time home buyers thing, the child tax, what if you want to talk about her tax policy proposals, whatever policy that she put out tons and tons of policy. You can scroll down her webpage and look at what she was proposing. And I was on board for pretty much all of it. Her policy for, right towards the end when she put out, a couple quick hits about, catered towards black men or whatever. Whatever you want to say, man. The policy, I was on board for it. But again, if you want to look at the policy of the alternative, that's absolutely not where I wanted to go. None of it.
Right. So, cool beans. So, you shared your vote. You shared why you voted. You talked a little bit about policy. I'll share who I voted for. I voted for Jill Stein and Butch Ware of the Green Party. And I understand many people out there would say that my choosing to do so is a waste of a vote. My choosing to do so is the reason why Trump wins or takes away from Kamala's ability to win. But I think people should understand how the Electoral College works. Like, I do live in Maryland. Maryland did go blue. So effectively, my vote didn't hurt her. Would you agree?
Yes. I think if you're in a safe state, California, New York, I think Maryland, you could consider safe. A vote for Jill Stein it's still very much a wasted vote. I mean, I don't know what it says. It doesn't really communicate anything. But if you're going to waste a vote, waste it in a safe state.
So again, I understand the rhetoric of a wasted vote, but I don't consider it a wasted vote because again, I truly believe in democracy. I truly believe in every vote means something, and I think that when the other or opposing side carries the notion that a vote is wasted, then it kind of contradicts why you even voted for the person you voted for in general. Because again, obviously there's more to vote for than just the president. That's not the only thing on the ballot, right? And of course,
Right, but I had to challenge you on that because we're not really talking about down ballot stuff. We're talking about the president, and you started off talking about
well,
the electoral
well,
college and the way the electoral college is sorted out.
what we're talking about, Llama, is voting, right?
Uh-huh.
Those other things are just topics around that. The ultimate discussion that we're talking about in an election, right, is voting, right?
Correct. But again, we are the only society on earth that uses anything close to the electoral college. And when you're talking about specifically the Electoral College, a third party vote is a wasted vote. It is a wasted vote because it's not a majority. Jill Stein could have won a majority of all of the votes and
Yeah.
still not been elected president
So is it
because of how the Electoral College works. It's a wasted
right?
vote.
So is it wasted because it didn't benefit a person who was the favorite, or is it wait?
No, it's a wasted vote because this person has zero chance to win.
So let's slow down there because I didn't finish my question. Right?
Go
Is
ahead.
it a wasted vote because I didn't vote for the person who's the favorite, or is it a wasted vote because there is belief that it is, or rather that it is absolutely impossible for this person to win, and in that,
The second.
huh?
It's the second.
So it's
It's
absolute.
the last.
So again,
It-
but so again, I just again I think that we have to be careful with our rhetoric because I don't think that it's impossible that a Green Party candidate could win. I don't think that it's
0% chance.
I don't think
Zero
that
percent
I
chance.
don't think that it's impossible. You know
So,
what I'm
but
saying?
but you have to logistically walk that through, right? Logistic again, you need 270 electoral college votes.
Understood.
Let's say Jill Stein magically gets 250.
Mm,
That there's no chance that she would get 250,
okay.
right? But that's
Ca-
still short of
In, in
270,
in today's world, you're absolutely right. In
right?
today's world, you're absolutely right. But just like everything was pointing toward Kamala winning this year and Trump coming,
No,
or
no.
maybe not everything pointing. It was maybe not, and let's dive deeper into that. But I we're gonna have to agree to disagree on the wasted vote thing. I don't want to beat a dead horse with that one. I do believe that the more that you extend your vote to a candidate in a particular party that isn't of the favorite, the more likely they are to turn up on a ballot. And I think that's actually how it works, which is why
Well,
the
I
which
guess and I guess that's the question is what is the goal of voting for that third party
so
person? Is it to send a message
so I think that
to
so I think that
to the other parties?
yeah, so I think the goal is to allow, I guess, the electoral college to understand that this party is a viable party and people are actually engaging in voting for that particular party, and then they should show up on a ballot.
Yeah,
Just
no, that's not going to happen. They have to start small. If you want to send that message, you got to put people in the Senate, you got to put people in the House, and they have zero. They don't have any local, state, or federal Green Party people out there. It's not happening. It's not a movement.
right.
Jill Stein pops up once every 4 years, runs for president, and disappears. She's not a serious candidate, and neither is the Green Party. They're not a serious party. So
So
if you wanted to send that message, you have to say, look, we're serious and we're trying to get these offices state, local, and federal and do it that way. Because again, logistically, remember,
mhm.
we're talking the electoral college. If she were to magically get 250, she's still short. So who chooses the president? It will be the House of Representatives. And they don't have any people in the House of Representatives. So
Right.
she still wouldn't win.
So I understand you explaining that, but what I'm saying is again, right now, while it may seem impossible, right now, while it may seem the unpopular, um, the purpose in voting at this moment is so that they show up on ballots without question, without query, and that people are more inclined to support that particular party. Now, again, I understand that the current nature of voting doesn't lean toward anything outside of Democrat or Republican when we're talking about president, but that may not always be the case in this country. Like we've seen some changes, like we're seeing some changes in voting, and so in transitioning, I think when we talk about why did Kamala lose, right? Why did Kamala lose? If we can be objective, if we can be neutral about this, I read a little bit about like what was being mentioned, and then when you look at the overall campaign, and a lot of people say that the single most reason why Kamala lost was because she played into identity politics way too hard. What do you think about that?
Nah. I couldn't disagree with that anymore. Trump's entire campaign was identity politics. His entire campaign. He had zero policy, nothing. It was identity politics. Kamala some dabble in there, a little bit here and there, but it was more so about we are fighting for your right to exist. And if that's identity politics, then that is what it is.
So when you say,
I don't think that she lost. I don't
mhm,
think that she did anything to lose. I don't think the Democrats did anything to lose.
mhm.
My message to you from the top has been this is a referendum on whiteness. Whiteness won this.
So I think whiteness always wins in this country, first and foremost.
Whiteness is undefeated,
Yeah,
bro.
whiteness is absolutely undefeated in this country.
Whiteness is undefeated.
So,
Look,
but
I'm serious. Like, I don't think that there's anything. First of all, let me say this. I think Kamala ran an exceptionally good campaign. It was she ran a message of unity.
mhm,
I've never seen in my lifetime so many like staunch Republicans endorsing a Democratic candidate. It's never happened in my lifetime. It was an outstanding campaign. When you look back at what Hillary did wrong, she skipped certain states. She didn't campaign in certain states. Kamala was everywhere. She was everywhere several times. And it was just an outstanding campaign, especially considering she only was running for what, 3 months, 4 months?
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Outstanding campaign. I'm not going to put the loss on her or the Democrats. This was just,
But
it's hard to defeat whiteness, dude.
I do feel like if Joe bowed out from the start, it'd have been a lot closer. Like she might have won
Mhm.
Pennsylvania, bro. I think she might if she if because I'm talking about you had since July to really prep and get into the weeds. Like you had to in so I just feel like from the start it maybe would have been a better outcome than right now, honestly.
Nah, I doubt
Because
that.
you maybe would have given
Matter of fact,
you would have
I think
given
it made it closer the fact that he dropped out when he did.
you
It
would
it
have
got me
I
more
think
energized.
I think you would have given Trump more time to say stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just saying, like, but here's my thing, right? And so one of one of the things you mentioned, one of the things you mentioned was her 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 sort of campaign was built around freedom for all and not identity politics. But when you say freedom for all, what all are we talking about? I mean, we are playing into identity when we say that.
No, no, so I'm saying if you want to call that identity politics, so if you're talking about
Hmm.
if you want to talk about the LGBT community,
Yeah.
uh, black community, whatever marginalized community, her message to you is, yo, you exist, we see you,
But
you're welcome under this tent,
right,
right?
and here's
That's a message of unity, and if
right.
you want to consider that identity politics, then that is what it is. But that's the furthest she dug into it.
But
On the flip side,
yeah,
Trump's campaign was 100% identity politics, us versus them. The
I
Haitians are eating your pets. Uh,
but
uh,
I don't. So here's the example, and here's my reasoning behind what I'm saying. Right, I don't think Trump's campaign was identity politics. I think Trump's campaign was Americanization, making America great. Right.
Based on
It
identity.
was no. Listen. While being American is an identity, right? What I mean by identity politics is Kamala is playing into the fact that you're Spanish, the fact that you're black, the fact that you're from the South, the fact that you try to bid off of the diversity of people rather than the fact that all of these people are just American. And so I'll give you the greatest example from statistics. Trump won the Latin American or the Spanish American vote, and all he's been talking about throughout all his campaign is massive deportation,
Mhm.
right? And not allowing these people to illegally come into our border. That a Spanish population won him Pennsylvania, right? So we're posturing this guy as this guy who wants to get rid of these illegals. Not saying that all Spanish people are illegals here in this country, but to some way your migration to this country correlates with that. For you to win an election or win a poll for that particular focus group, and that's who you are. One of the examples given was there's a gentleman who owns a hot dog stand up in New York who's Spanish. He's an immigrant, and he said that I don't like Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I don't like his policies, but I don't like how Kamala addresses me as a Spanish person. And that's why I'm voting for Trump. And a lot of black people feel the same way. A lot of black people feel like the way that you try to pander to me as a black person was in a way disrespectful. Like when you put Quavo and Meg Thee Stallion and Glorilla on a stage for a rally or whatever you call it, it's just to most educated black people, which I believe many black people are, to that it feels like you're belittling me, right? It feels like you're picking the people from our community that may be celebrities but don't represent who I am, and it's only in your attempt to appeal, right? And so you're playing into what your idea of who I am is, and it's not successful, right?
So here's the thing.
We like Glorilla and Meg Thee Stallion in the club, but we don't like them when we talking about our politics. And
But
when you
here's the thing.
and when you
Here's the thing,
uh-huh.
though. I gotta challenge you on that.
Just one last thing, and
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just feel like my overall point is I think when you play into the identity of these individuals, and I think one statistic that's interesting that I think they won't show is how Indian voters voted for her, Indian American or Asian American voters voted for her, but I think that to say all of this, I just feel like so many people just felt like she was such a disingenuous person in her attempt to pander. And I feel like she failed at identity politics, and she played too heavily into them in ways where it didn't exactly address the people she was identifying with exception to the LGBTQ plus community.
I have to challenge you on that. So if we're talking about why people voted for Trump or why people didn't vote at all, I guess that's the question, right? So if we're talking about the people who voted for Trump, their concern is not what Kamala did or didn't do. That had absolutely nothing to do with it. Because if we're talking about how they didn't feel comfortable with how she addressed their community, you mean you felt comfortable with how Trump addressed your community? Like, Kamala gave you Quavo in Glorilla, but Trump gave you Waka Flocka in Kodak Black. Like,
But
what are we talking about here?
but I don't recall any Waka Flocka or Kodak Blacks. But again, I just feel like Trump addressed everyone as American. The only time
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
in terms of speaking to the people, right? He's Of course you're black, of course you're Spanish, of course you are who you are, but the way that he was addressing his audience, it felt more as if
Okay.
he was
Okay.
speaking to people as Americans and not
I'll say it.
as their
I'll
subjects.
agree. I'll agree with you. I think both things are true. He's addressing people as Americans, but
Mhm.
what he's doing is saying, "Come on into this whiteness thing. We are the
I
real
think
American."
I
When
think
when he talks about real America, that's who he's talking about. So welcome to the club. Hey, Hispanics, come on with us. Come on with the white folks. This is the
yeah.
winning team,
So
right?
I think you can I
Because
think
Kamala's doing the same thing when she's addressing people as Americans,
mhm.
but what she's saying is you're Americans, you're also this, and I see you. They don't see you over
But
there.
in context, I think in context, right? When you say come into this whiteness, I think what we're really talking about is coming into Americanization, right? And I think that is
It's
very
whiteness.
yeah. Well, again,
Which is
I think it's very important to include the context, right? Especially in a world where people don't know what racism is, because again, the Americanization through education, the Americanization through society, through social constructs, right? It all benefits the power structure of racism, white supremacy, right? Based on the culture which is protected and privileged within our society. So in a very lamest way, yes, it's saying come into this whiteness. But when white people think that they can defend themselves with the term racism, that lamest terminology doesn't necessarily work. So
yeah.
so again, I another thing I want to talk about, and we'll dance around with a lot, but
Mhm.
um again, I want to allow individuals to understand that I'm I'm not for Trump, but I'm also not for Kamala, right? And I don't say that in a damaging way. Like it's just my choice as a human being. Like I have a freedom to make that choice, right? And I don't think that I should be demeaned or I should be thought of differently, because I think it's quite, there's a lot of irony in the fact that someone would call you a house Negro or a coon for not voting for a black person running for president when we're not analyzing the system that this person is going to serve to begin with. Right? I'm a coon because I didn't vote for a black person to represent a white power structure. What? You know what I'm saying? So and then when we talk about the aspect of, and I think I would like you to be real with me about this, when we talk about the aspect of representation, which I think is the very smallest reason to vote for someone, is, that's a black woman. We want to see a black woman. That'll mean a lot for your children. But I think, again, back to the conversation of identity politics, I think we got to be real about identity in the United States and associated to class. Because Barack Obama, while we might say he's the first black president, what made Barack Obama black was Michelle being his wife. And Ta-Nehisi Coates talks about this in his books. And I think what people need to realize is there isn't a single black person I know that can relate to the developing experience that, or the growth or the maturation from childhood to adulthood that Obama had, right? And still be able to call themselves black. I mean, for the very purpose, or rather root of the meaning of Kendrick Lamar's song, They Not Like Us, that would relate to both Kamala and Barack Obama. And so when we talk about representation, and I'm not taking anything away from her having black roots in some regard, but when we talk about the social development and constructs, and we also talk about the economic relationship to being black as well in this country, and the cultural entanglements along with that, Kamala does not align with that previous to your decision to go to an HBCU. And you don't represent my daughter. You don't represent black people who come from families who either made it out of situations of low socioeconomic status to middle class or what have you. You don't represent those people, right? And then in the other aspect of things, Kamala Harris not having a black family, I think, plays a really big role in the fact that we're unable to see you as a black person because of all of these things. And I'm not saying she's not black, but but I think that one of the most powerful albums released of all time was Mos Def's Black on Both Sides. It's one thing to have black skin. It's one thing to be black on the outside, but are you black on the inside? Are you black spiritually? Are you black in your mind, your body, your spirit? Are you black on that side? Right? And, I just feel like for Kamala to be a black woman, to be educated from Howard University, for you to not know how to have a conversation about reparations for black Americans in a way where you feel like it doesn't take away from your potential voters. I just feel like, I think about it from the standpoint of, obviously I would never run for president, right? But any person that I respect as an intellectual, if they ever were to run for president, talking about reparations wouldn't be a hard thing for them to talk about. You know what I'm saying? And not just.
No, I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand that.
I'm just saying, listen, I got a lot of intellectuals I got up here on this wall with these books, man. And I'm just saying, like, for you to trade away the discussion about reparations for votes from white people, I think says it all.
Says all of what, though?
In relation,
because the question is this.
In terms of, I'm saying in terms of your blackness. I'm saying in reference to her blackness.
Right, but I don't think you can gauge one's blackness based on a conversation that you want them to have.
You can. As a leader.
No, you can't.
As a leader, you absolutely have. And
not off of a conversation that you specifically want them to have.
No,
now,
the conversation about reparations is a conversation we all wanted her to have.
It was
a question she banned every interviewer from asking, which is why
right.
No one after the initial interview asked her that question. Why?
Right. And I don't disagree with that. But specifically because her accountability as a politician is to win. It's to win. It's not her accountability isn't to I want to be Marcus Garvey out here on these streets.
Right.
Her accountability is I need to win this.
But win
So
at
what,
the win at
what are
the
my best chances to win this?
but winning at the cost of selling your blackness.
That's not selling it out because she's not selling out would be I'm totally against reparations. We don't need to do that. Black people are fine. That would be
Telling me you're against it is more respectable than you saying nothing.
no,
Voting against
it's just
voting against Kamala, voting for Trump is more respectable than not voting at all.
okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So again, I just no matter how
So
and again, I'm not saying that this is a defining factor in anything because I mean I think the
well,
polls
because it's not.
I think the polls also showed that in terms of the power of the black vote, we are no longer as significant as we thought we were with the growth of the Latino community in the United States. They are the new
So
they are the new um group to salivate over.
so the problem is just that. I've been telling people all along, like I love my people, man. I really do, yo. But we have this unreasonably high expectation of what our power is.
Okay.
We are in a very small minority in this country. And yes, we do have a voice. Yes, we do push the culture, and all of those things are true.
Yeah.
However, when pencil hit the paper, man, we ain't got what we think we have, and that's a problem that's our problem on understanding what the landscape is. Like, and I agree with you. The Hispanic community, they are the ones I won't say that they're powerful, but we would benefit with uniting with that community. I'll say that because they are still very much in the minority as well. They can't do anything on their own the same way that we can't do anything on their own because whiteness will always prevail.
Again, hey, you make a good point, but it's like I think that I mean I think that the only significance in it is cultivating that collective consciousness for the benefit of votes, and I think our votes only count for maybe 2 to 3 states, and that might be a very little bit of California, or maybe a quarter of California, all of Maryland, Virginia, and DC. I think, and then maybe Philadelphia, a little bit of Philadelphia, but I think those are the only places where black votes really, really, really matter.
New York,
Yeah, New York,
New
New
York,
York. Even though New York is very multicultural and other,
very,
right,
yeah.
very liberal in general. So I think that those areas, and that I mean, in what I'm talking about, we're talking about roughly anywhere between a given 26 to 50 electoral college votes, right, or maybe even a little bit higher than that, right? But with those states, but yeah, I mean, you can speculate because
Yeah, but
California's like 56, Maryland's 10. You know what I'm saying? So,
all right.
um,
I want to go back to the point about Kamala though and her identity and her upbringing and whether or not she's for the people, whatever. That's a tough conversation to have um because of the facts of the situation. Like she did not marry a black man, right? I'm sure that hurt her just from optics alone, right?
definitely.
You can have as many conversations as you want to your face turn blue about what she has or hasn't done for the black community. It doesn't matter because optics win, right? Perception is what people's reality are. So you
Yeah,
have a lot of black men out there who feel a way about her because she married a white guy
and
or Jew.
I think other states that I was shocked at really were Georgia, North Carolina. I mean, that Southern Belt is always a little bit difficult, but I was shocked at North Carolina and Georgia particularly,
I wasn't.
I just feel like she could have swung that. You know what I mean? I feel like she could have swung that, and
The South is the South.
yeah,
You
that's true.
know,
That's true. That's true. But
South is always going to be a bastion of whiteness. It's
yeah,
never surprised me. I was more surprised that how Georgia turned last time when it
yeah,
went. I was more surprised by that than anything else.
but I think wasn't Georgia blue last time?
That's what I'm saying. When it turned, because it used to be red.
Yeah, but it's like you had that old girl who really helped secure all them votes for them down there. You know what I'm saying?
And that surprised the hell out of me
It, but
when it happened when we got Warnock and also I was just like, wow, I
and I
didn't
and I
think Georgia had that in them.
and I was just like, from that, but again, it's the question is what was it that turned it? And I think that in root of it all, what one can say motivated a lot of the white uneducated or the white non-college voters, because this always tends to motivate white non-college voters, is the fact that we've had a Democrat and we need something different, right?
Um,
I'm going to vote just because I want something different. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think I think politics ebbs and flows, man.
Yeah,
There's always
definitely.
going to be a period of I guess you can call it laziness or whatever. Speaking about like white people, right?
Yeah,
George Bush was so bad that white people got lazy enough to elect Barack, right?
yeah,
But then that happened, and they was like, "Oh shit!" And now we have to
exactly,
activate. We
exactly.
have to activate, right? So then they get lulled to sleep again, and then Georgia goes blue.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Now we have to overcorrect. So it's just an ebb and flow type of thing, in my
And
opinion.
I think like in talking a little bit into the future here, I think honestly, right, depending on how this all goes, I think the only way that Democrats win the next seat, bro, is Westmore has to go, bro. Westmore has to run for president.
I agree with you. Listen. I
I
mean,
mean,
and
in order
I
for
won't
him
say
to,
it would just have to be Westmore. I think there's a lot of people that can do it. I will say this, and this
I
is
think
going to sound
Westmore is the,
hard.
I think Westmore is a
Oh, he's
certified win.
dope. He's he's stamped,
Certified
bro.
win. Like he's a certified win. Like
He's stamped. But I will say that
military veteran, black family, serving Maryland and doing a damn good job at it. He has the #1 approval rating of any governor of any state. Like, and
uh,
he's collaborating with other state governors. Like he's doing the damn thing, man. He was
he's
Kamala's first
he's
choice for vice president.
he is the absolute truth. I'm not going to refute that. I support him 100%. I'm not going to say who the Dems should run. I'm going to say who the Dems shouldn't run,
Okay.
or at least 4 or 5 election cycles. They should not run another woman. They should not run another woman. I don't care who she is. Um, if you're not if you're going to look at on the Republican side, arguably
Mhm.
the absolute worst presidential candidate we've ever seen, arguably, right? Say you
But
can go down a laundry list of things that makes him the absolute worst, and
George,
then you look at Kamala and what she's done
yeah,
in her career.
exactly.
She ran an outstanding campaign, and you look at that, and you still vote for that white dude.
Yeah, and I think
You
she's
you
qualified having served in her previous roles. I again another thing that I've mentioned in the past that I felt like did her a disservice is again I felt like she was the most non-visible vice president I've ever seen.
I disagree. I
no,
disagree
but
100.
I'm not saying that's fact. I'm not saying that's fact. I'm saying that's how she feels. You know what I'm
And you know
saying?
why? You
Yeah.
know why she felt that way?
Why?
Because they didn't like Biden. They wanted Biden gone. So it was like, yo, okay, who's up next?
Yeah.
Listen, man, I cannot tell you a single thing that Al Gore did when he was president, or Mike Pence did. I mean, vice president, when Mike Pence did when he was vice president, other than damn near get killed on January 6th. Like, the only vice president that I can tell you who was visible, the only one is Dick Cheney. That is the only one.
That's
In
facts.
my lifetime, Dick Cheney was the only one that I knew who he was, and that's probably because he shot another dude in the face.
Yeah,
Like,
but also because George Bush was just so much stuff shit happened at that time.
Right. But
Yeah,
outside of Dick Cheney, I could not tell you what any of these vice presidents did. But I did see Kamala. I
yeah,
did see her. And if you're paying attention to politics, you saw her. If you didn't pay attention to politics, you still saw her because they was pushing her to the forefront way before Biden stepped aside.
yeah,
Because that was the idea, was to get her out there anyway. She was visible.
yeah.
I think that people are grasping at straws here. Really, all of this was about she's a woman, yo. She's a
You
woman.
think
She's
it
a
was just
black
about
woman.
the fact that she was a woman?
She's a woman and she's a black woman. Both of those
I
things are
think
true.
I think I think her being a woman did come into play for some people too easily than I would have liked it to be.
I will put I will put that on when you look at the polling numbers of the
But
Hispanic vote, that's him.
if she was a woman who served, I think that would have given her a little bit more of a
Wouldn't have
edge.
mattered. Wouldn't have mattered.
Nah. I think if she was a woman who served in the military, bro, it wouldn't been as much of a question because a lot of people the one thing people say after her being a woman is how is she going to have conversations with leaders from countries that don't even religiously speak to women in those type of a settings, understanding that they do for some other countries who they have to do that with, but it's like for the greatest quote unquote nation in the world to be led by a woman and have to be at the seat of a table discussing things with men who rule countries that don't respect women in some ways. Like, how could she do that? That was always the big thing I hear when people say things, and it's just like,
Well,
if I
well
feel like
again, like I said, they shouldn't run a woman for like another 5 cycles. They have to create a woman in a lab. They gotta get a military veteran
I
who has
mean,
also been serving in the Senate, and
I,
she also did a stint in the House of Representatives. She
yeah,
was a federal judge. She has to be absolutely
by
perfect,
the
and it's going to take about 5 cycles to get
yeah,
that
I
lady.
mean, by the looks of it, the first quote unquote woman might be the trans woman from I don't know if it's trans man or trans woman. Forgive me, but the trans woman from Delaware who just won.
The one that just got elected?
Yeah, from Delaware.
Nah,
That
no
might
way.
that might be the one.
Not a chance. Not a chance. I mean, I'm dead serious. Like I look at how Hillary lost, and I look at how Kamala lost. And Hillary, she had her hangups or whatever, but when you look at her resume, impeccable,
Yeah.
impeccable. You look at Kamala's resume, absolutely impeccable. And they both lost to the same con man. And it's like he is absolutely when I'm not saying this like exaggerating. He is absolutely probably the worst presidential
But you know,
candidate.
but you know,
Everything you can say
but
about him is horrible, and he
but you
still won.
but as bad as you can say Trump is, I actually like his vice presidential candidate, and I think he won him some states. I think he absolutely won him some states, like
He won Ohio.
West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. I
He
think
was going to win. He was going to win West Virginia anyway.
yeah, that's true.
Um,
That's true. That's
but
true.
but Ohio definitely for sure. That's his home state or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, he's
in
from
my
Ohio.
lifetime, Ohio has been considered a swing state, but
Yeah.
he's from Ohio.
Yeah. So I mean, I again, JD Vance is that guy, military guy, comes from low socioeconomic status. Went to the military, went to college, even at times
And
spoke out against Trump. Like it's just he's swaying people. And then I feel like when we talk about Kamala Harris's vice president choice, I don't think he did anything initially. Being a previous NRA supporter and then denouncer at some point, it helped to bring that sort of, okay, maybe you might be able to swing some Republicans, but when that debate, bro, he just got his ass handed to him in that debate, man. And I feel like when you realize he came off as very unqualified during that debate. Not to say that not to say that a vice president has to be the most qualified, but I think that he didn't help her win. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Again, I don't think that there's anybody. Listen, I'm going to say this till my face turn blue, man. There is absolutely nothing better that Kamala or Tim Walz or the Democrats as a body could do for her to win.
Yeah.
There's nothing that they could have done for her to
So
win.
so
It was the way that this turned out. It was going to be what it was going to be.
yeah.
There's nothing that they did wrong. There was no deficiencies. I'm not going to blame Ukraine or Gaza or how Barack came out chastising black men. None of that had any.
Which I thought was a horrible move, bro.
It didn't move the needle.
That
It didn't move the needle at
not only
all.
did it not move the needle, it pushed people away, bro.
I
Like,
don't think it pushed people away.
no, it
I don't think
absolutely
it
did.
mattered at all. Looking at the results
It
of
absolutely did, because I don't like how this entire time throughout all of this, it I understand that Trump swayed some black men, but we do have to understand there are a lot of Republican black men who have existed since Bush or Clinton, right? And so I don't feel like it was fair for them to create the narrative that black male voters were a problem for them.
Right, but you can feel how you want to feel about it, but it didn't move the needle. She
It didn't
didn't
move the
lose.
needle. Yeah, it didn't move the needle.
When you look at the numbers from the last election to this one, black men still overwhelmingly voted for her. Overwhelmingly. So it didn't
Exactly.
move the needle. It didn't
Exactly.
move at all. So I'm not blaming none of that. None of that shit matters. None of that matters. She is a black woman and she never stood a chance from the beginning.
So
Because of who the because specifically because of who the other guy is. This is a dude, again, his entire campaign is about preaching to people's fears. People their fears of the other
I
and
don't
the other
I don't agree with that.
speaking
I don't agree with that.
speaking about immigrants in terms of their vermin. Everything was about their scaring them, the others, and it housed these people.
I don't agree with that. And
That's what he did.
so again, I think fear is a factor used to generate hope and faith or what have you, right?
Okay.
And I think that that is something used on both sides.
Yes.
And I quite personally think that fear was more driven by the Democrats than Trump in and of
Okay.
himself.
Okay. Let
I
me.
think hold on, time out. Let me just finish this. I just feel like Trump's approach when we talk about invoking emotion was more geared toward generating pride than it was about generating fear. Pride in being an American over pride in being an American versus the very real threat that the people who currently are in this position refuse to want to do.
Dude, they're eating the dogs.
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on,
They're
hold on, hold on,
eating
hold on, hold on,
dogs.
hold on. But again, even when saying stuff like they're eating the dogs, that's not a fearful statement. That's a
Yes,
that no,
it is.
that's not something to be fearful of. That's something that motivates the pride in being an American and why we
No.
time out, and why we should deport these individuals, right? Why we should take back our country, right? That's what that's alluding to.
No, man.
That's alluding to generating pride. That's not alluding to fear. Nobody fears somebody telling me that somebody's eating my dog. That's not fear.
It is fear.
That's not fear. I don't fear that at all. It's just like, what the fuck, these guys are weird and they come from another country, and so I need
Let's
to have
get him out of here.
and so I need let's get them out of here, right? And so
Right.
that's generating pride in my
No,
Americanization.
no. That's
That's not
fear.
that's
That's
not
fear because why are we getting them out of here? I'm afraid if we don't get them out of here, they're going to keep eating my dogs.
because they're taking over my country, right?
Fear.
And while yes, there is a component of fear related to that, the overall emotional point that is being invoked is pride.
No, fear. It's fear.
Okay,
And if
okay,
the
okay.
and if and if it and if the and if it's and if you want to talk about its pride, yes, it's white pride, but white pride is based on fear.
it's not white
They
pride.
fear, they
It's
fear.
again, we gotta the lamest word of white doesn't do enough to allow individuals to understand what you're saying. You're saying it's American pride. It's
Right,
American.
but
It's
American
for
pride is white pride. It's a
is
euphemism. They can't say
with
white pride like they want to.
with
So they have to.
with a conversation. Yes, we can get to that point of understanding Americanization. But again back to the point of identity politics. I've asked this question, and in making the transition now is I just feel like more black people, Spanish people, Asian people, they see themselves as more American when voting than they do their race, right? So again, when I say American, it's like, of course, when we parse it out, yeah, it's you being quote unquote white, right? But it's the fundamental or more contextual term is Americanization or Americanness,
Right.
right?
And so this
And so to my point of the invoking of fear is I just, and I want to get to this point because this is the part that I wanted to talk about since the beginning is I just find it crazy that that everybody today can go into their group chats wherever they may be, whatever it may be, and talk about their upset that, oh man, Kamala lost, right? Or even when everybody's posting pictures with this "I voted" sticker, right? And I understand that there's the age old elder vernacular of "I don't discuss politics," but hell, we're living in this age of social media and people are going to talk. But I don't feel like if you voted for a Democrat, you, to everyone, you're an okay person. But if you voted for a Republican, you're almost perceived as a less of a human being, or I've lost respect for you as a human because you voted for a Republican, right? Or the fact that you can talk about how you're upset that Kamala lost, but no one can talk about how they're happy that Trump is winning. And if if not for just the sake of change, and people can say things or daunting things like this is going to affect generations, like giving $100 billion to Ukraine and Israel isn't going to affect generations. Everything a president does, whether we want to be critical about it or not, good or bad, is going to affect generations, right? So I think that people are too caught up in the persona and personality of it all, and not enough in the understanding that, I mean, it's just I just feel like people shouldn't be looked at as less of a person based on who they voted for. You voted for who you voted for. You wanted who you wanted, right? Like why is it okay for you to bash a person because they were rooting for Trump and or they chose to vote for Trump, but it's okay for it's not okay for that person to to want them to win, or it's okay for you to talk about how much you wanted that person to win.
I can explain that very easily.
We know why it is, but it's just I don't get it. Like
You,
it's just like
I can explain to you what it is and why it's okay. Because I personally believe that it's okay to shame somebody for their political beliefs. Um, because what do they really believe in, right?
I think every
If part of your political beliefs
mm-hmm.
is that I'm less than,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to shame you for that. If
But
part of your political beliefs
mm-hmm.
is they're less than,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to shame you for that. Like if your political beliefs are centered around hate
Yeah,
and divisiveness, I'm going to shame you for
but
that
but
because
this is
that's what you're voting for.
but this is my thing though. And this is the point that I wanted to actually, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. You feel like that's what a person's voting for because that's what the Democratic Party told you you're voting for.
No.
Okay,
Because
give
what
me
are you voting for?
point me
I ask people. You can ask people.
but point me to an example in a person's policy where if you're voting for them, you're saying that someone else is less of a person.
Right. So telling somebody they can't marry someone based on who they sleep
Even
with.
though that's not an actual occurrence at this moment. That's not
But
an actual, but
that's a thing. But
but
that's a thing.
well,
They do not believe that
it has been in the past, but it's not currently. But if I
it is
but
currently.
what
They would still love to overturn that. Absolutely.
but again, that's not a current policy. But I think what you're mentioning is a conservative notion, and
Uh-huh.
and again, I think the conservative notion is not saying that that person is less of a person. I think the conservative notion is saying that this ceremony comes from a religion or a faith or a belief where if you're a man marrying a man, it's disrespectful to the ceremony of a man wearing of the traditional man marrying a woman. And I don't think that it's saying that someone is necessarily less, but it's saying that that person is not traditional. And so
Right,
there
but
and so therefore
you
so therefore in the pursuit of a conservative nature, they're trying to conserve what is tradition.
okay. And if you want to split hairs about that, at the end of the day, you're telling these people what they can and can't do. And that is against them as people and how they choose to exist. They 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 bash their entire community,
Yeah.
not necessarily based on them wanting to marry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can't even teach. that gay people exist in school. You couldn't even say gay in Florida. You know what I'm saying? Like these are specific things that they lean on, and that's just that community. Our
So
community, you
yeah,
can go different with stop and frisk stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
look, man, you can go so many different. But the point of it is
Mm-hmm.
when your politics
Mm-hmm.
is rooted in uh divisiveness. I absolutely am going to judge you for that.
But I
And
think
I'm not saying if you want to say, look, I'm rich, I'm filthy fucking rich,
yeah.
I make $10 million a year, it's good for my taxes. I mean, I guess, my dude.
But
I
but but
guess.
but but here's my thing though, Lama. Just because someone is putting something into context doesn't necessarily mean and just because someone is divisive does not necessarily mean that they're belittling another group of people, right? and
Sure
and,
it
and so
is.
and I see and I think by nature anything liberal to a conservative is divisive, right? Because they're two opposing sides. And so
Uh-huh.
again, to the overall point, when you say when a person votes for Trump, who what are they voting for? And you say that they're voting for someone who thinks less of other people. And I'm
Mhm.
not going into this person's psychology, but to the overall policies that that person is putting forth. That's not what he's saying. That's what Democrats are telling you he's saying. And I'll give you the a greater point is also when we talk about um when we talk about man, I missed my point. Oh yeah, when we
Why you
talk
think?
no no time out when we talk about abortion, right?
Mhm.
Democrats are saying that Republicans or Trump is going to take your right to abortion. That's not what anybody, he's never said that in this current campaign running, right? And that's not what he's doing. And that's not what the Supreme Court did. The Supreme Court said that it should not be under the order of the Constitution to provide this umbrella of this right. It should be up to states to make that determination, right? And it's not necessarily saying that they believe that that shouldn't be a right. They're saying that it should be a state by state basis because just like New York ain't West Virginia, right? People, right? People should be able to vote on a local level. No,
Jordan,
time out. People should be able to vote on local levels on what they feel like is right. And
and
again, I'm not telling you what I believe in, right? But I'm telling you what was actually what is actually in place. Maryland and various other states just voted on the right for abortion, right? You can still do that in those states, right? And my thing about it is if Alabama has an issue with it, that means the majority of people in Alabama voted for that particular issue, right? And if you got a problem,
so
and if you have an
if
issue with it, I highly suggest you move somewhere else because you're living in a state where your ideology does not fit in.
right, I hear what you're saying, and I disagree with the notion that that should be a thing, right? If Alabama decides, you know what, we putting slavery on the ballot
Mm-hmm.
and it passes, I don't think that we should look at that and be like, hey man, Alabama wants slavery. I think we should say as a country that shit should not be.
But we do in our constitution, like we do.
Right, and that's the same
But the
thing, and
issue
that's the
is
same thing. That's the same and
the
that's the
issue.
same protections that abortion should have had. We
No,
should not
that's
be
that's
delegating
that's
relegating that to the states.
you're talking about an action, right? You're talking about an action versus like. So again, I understand. I don't disagree with you, right? I personally believe that abortion should be by order of the judicial system. I think that it should be a constitutional right for a woman to have an abortion. Don't get me wrong. I agree with that. But what I'm
Mhm.
simply saying to you is for the Democratic Party to be telling to people that Republicans are going to take away your right or Trump is trying to take away your right to have an abortion, that is
They're
not
correct in doing so.
that is not the truth. That is
It
not
is
the
the
it's listen, it's not the truth.
it is the
All
truth because otherwise they would have just left it alone.
no,
It was, they didn't bring it.
it wasn't a Trump evaluation.
It was.
It wasn't. It happened within the last 2 years of Biden.
And why did that happen?
Because it was voted on in Congress in the
No,
Senate and
no, no,
it moved.
no.
Listen, it moved up to the judicial branch for review, and the judicial branch made a decision. And that
Who's the
this
judicial branch?
What do you mean? Come on, the Supreme Court. You know what I'm saying?
And
So
who are those people?
they're made up of Democrats and Republicans, but they're all educated individuals. But my point is,
Wait a minute. We're almost there. We're almost there.
my
We're almost
God,
there.
come on, like,
The majority,
right,
Trump has put three of those people
again,
there, so that is a him thing.
but again, the decision made was not to take away the right; it was to leave the right to states.
To leave the right to so they can take it away.
So if no, not so that they can take it away, so that
Uh-huh.
people within their states
Okay.
can vote
Right.
for whether or not
So
they
if
want it
so,
to be. So it's the
so
people.
if they, so maybe
it's the
the end game, maybe the end game is so they can bring back because again the Confederacy has always touted states' rights.
Why we're taking it out of context because I'm
Not
trying
out of
to
context.
I'm trying to
Same
keep
thing.
it in context.
Mhm.
For the Democratic Party to be saying that Trump is going to take away your ability to have an abortion when the decision was to allow voters on state levels to make the decision, it's not. Trump isn't taking away that right. In fact, he's putting it into the power of the people to make the decision rather than it being a decision of this overarching supremacy.
Okay, so let me challenge you on that. Let's say you're right. He wants to give it to the states. How come the states
Which he did.
don't want to put it on the ballot?
It is
They-
on the it is on the ballot.
Wait a minute. Let me finish. Let me finish. There are challenges. Florida. Florida was the one.
It was on a ballot in like 10 other states, bro.
Correct. So Florida, it failed in Florida.
It failed in Florida because the people that you put on your House and your Senate turned it down.
No. It was on the ballot. The people voted against it, but there are several reasons for that. If you peel back the layers, there's several reasons for that. One, it wasn't a majority vote. It wasn't like if 51% of the population says abortion is legal, it's legal. No, they raised it to 60%, right? That's number one. Number two, DeSantis, the Republican governor, was threatening people who tried to get the petition to put it on the ballot.
Okay.
Like there are several.
Do you put it past Florida? Whether you paint this story or not, do you put it past Florida not vote red? No.
I mean,
No.
Florida's Florida.
Florida's Florida.
But that's the whole point.
Do you put it past Texas to not vote red? The reality is that the majority of the people who live there voted in favor of these things, and they will continue to do so. Right? Or the representatives that you have on a House and a Senate level voted on these things. And yes, they're I'm not going to lie to you, right? In most cases, they're party aligned votes, right? But
it's not even party aligned because it's like 58% of the people in Florida voted to keep it legal, but that didn't reach the 60% threshold. Over half, more than half.
And I think that okay, so that is a valid point. But again, I think that's an overall, like that's a state issue that we can talk about addressing. But I think that
right. But that's my point in bringing and making it a state issue. The states don't want it.
But I think specific to my overall point. Because we're diving deep into the weeds here, right? So that you can have some win here. But the point is for Democrats, for Kamala Harris, for the campaign to say that Trump is taking away this right, it's not a factual statement. It's not a factual statement.
I don't know how you can say that with a straight face, because honestly, the right was embedded in the decision for Roe versus Wade, right?
Again, we just talked.
Wait a minute. Follow me on it.
I agree with the fact that Roe versus Wade should still be in place. I'm not
arguing.
No,
but wait.
I'm not arguing with you about how it all happened. I'm talking to you about what actually exists and what the result is. And the actual result is that voters have the ability to make that decision.
They don't.
On a state level.
They don't. Some states they won't even put it on the ballot. It's not on the ballot in Texas.
Again, at some point it was. At some point, it is introduced, right? At some point, there is a vote that has to be had. At some point, there is a House or a Senate bill that has to occur, right? So the reality is whether or not those are party aligned, or if that's just you're chopping it up to the corruption on politics on that end, fine. But at the end, and that's another conversation. But the reality of the result is that it has to come down to a state decision, right? And so it's not this person's campaign to take away the fundamental right, but that's what's being said.
So
So that's my
I, I'm,
so again, in bringing this home, that's my point in what I'm saying when you say you're voting for Trump and every Democrat is telling you what that means and saying that you're voting for belittling people, you're voting for taking away women's rights, you're voting, that's what the Democratic Party is telling you you're voting for. That's not actually what you're voting for, right?
I disagree. Because I don't go off of what the Democratic Party tells me or the Republican Party tells me or what MSNBC or Fox tells me. I go off of what's there. And if you want to talk about, again, we don't take away rights. That's not something that is typically done in the Constitution. We've given people rights.
The right wasn't taken away. The right wasn't taken away. The right wasn't taken away.
It was. When you overturned Roe versus Wade, it took away a right.
Roe versus Wade was evaluated.
And it took a right away.
Was evaluated, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about the Bill of Rights here. We're not. That's where rights, the terminology.
Right. But what it did, the outcome of overturning Roe versus Wade is it removed a fundamental right that women once had.
It did not remove a fundamental right.
A federally acknowledged fundamental right.
True, but we have
because again, if Mississippi said we bring it back slavery, that will be their right to do that. As
that's a different conversation, and know that's a very different conversation.
It's the same conversation.
It's not the same conversation.
It is the same conversation because it's something that.
Because if they said bring back slavery, slavery of who? One group of people. That's against.
Yes.
That's against
Constitution.
A constitutional right.
Right, but so the point of this whole thing and bringing it back to the states is you remove these federal protections because these decisions belong to the states. So that's what they want slavery to be. That's what they've always wanted it to be. They wanted to remove the federal protections of it.
So again,
and right now the federal protections of abortion have been taken away.
They haven't, and that's what I'm
trying
to
get the federal.
Let me ask you this. This is an actual analogy here. Do we not have the right to legally smoke marijuana?
Federally?
Do we?
No.
Do on a state level? Do we have a right to
Maryland?
Legally,
yes.
To legally smoke marijuana. So
in Maryland.
Because that's not a federally protected right, is it taken away from us?
It was never given to us to begin with.
Time out.
We never had a right.
Time out. I can smoke weed legally in the state of Maryland, right or wrong? Yes or no?
You can now, yes.
Is that my right in the state of Maryland?
Yes. It can be taken away.
Okay, so federally, it's not a right? So federally,
it's never been.
So federally, it's a crime, right?
Okay.
But by my right, I can legally smoke marijuana. Yes or no?
In Maryland.
In Maryland, yes. In Maryland, yes. So that's my point. The right has not been is not taken away from us. We can do it, right? So to say just because Roe versus Wade has been left for a state decision, we can't say that it's been taken away from us.
When I say it's been taken away, I'm talking about a federally recognized right, and this is true.
It's been taken away as something it's been taken away as something federally recognized. Yes, you're absolutely
right.
You're absolutely,
if we go state by,
you're absolutely right, but it's not something that has been eliminated from the equation.
Right, but that's not the discussion. That is
the discussion because Democrats are saying if you vote for Trump, he's going to take away your right to abortion. They're not saying they're not saying that if you vote for Trump, they're going to take away your federal right for abortion. They're not saying that in context, right? Because the reality
is it's already been taken away.
Because the reality is that right to an abortion is now left on a state decision, right? It's not something that is completely removed, right? It's just a state decision at this point. That is in writing in their decision and determination. So so
Again,
so so so
and
so
I understand what you're
so so
saying,
so 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 what so what
and
I'm so what I'm saying is again I agree that Roe versus Wade should still be in place, right? But what I am simply trying to allow you to do is that I feel like it's unfair for people to try and say that just because you voted for Donald Trump, you voted for everything bad Democrats are saying about Donald Trump, when most people voted for Donald Trump, but because he to them represents Americanization. He to them represents a sustaining of the American system, right?
what's that American system?
Whiteness.
There we go. And again, that's why I judge him. That's why I judge him because
but here's
the man himself says I take 100% credit for getting rid of Roe versus Wade. He
but
says this.
but here
So it's not Kamala blaming him for that. He's taking credit for it.
Okay. Yeah. So again, we already talked this into a dead horse. But again, but again, I think to the very point that just because Kamala makes you comfortable doesn't mean she herself is not selling you into that same whiteness, as you say, right? Because again, I say this again about Kamala. You know, a lot of people chastise her because she was a state attorney and she sent men to jail and all this other stuff. Shorty was doing her job, right?
She was.
She was doing.
But here's the thing.
No, time out. But time out. Shorty was doing her job. She was serving a system that, in and of itself, is designed to support that structure of whiteness, to support Americanization, right? But
I disagree. I disagree.
How can you agree that?
Not with what you just said, but I disagree with how she did her job.
Okay.
I believe that the only way to tear down a system is from the inside. Do you agree with that?
No.
You don't think a system can be torn down from the inside? You think it can be torn down from the outside?
No. I think yes, from the outside only. And one thing
from the outside only?
Yes, absolutely. War is never won by a person who infiltrated as a spy. That's not how war is won.
They help.
A spy has never won a war. No, it helps. But a spy, it helps.
Wars have been won because of spies.
Again, they're a piece on the chessboard, but they're not the MVP. And so
I agree, but some wars could not have been won without that inside information.
Right. You know what happens to a spy who stays on the inside too long?
They might become part of it, yeah, whatever.
The
point I'm trying to make is this:
the fight always happens.
The point I'm trying to make
on the outside, bro.
The fight is also going to happen on the outside, but you also need to be able to tear it down from the inside. And I'll put it like this.
But this is why I don't like the discussion, right? Because if in order to continue, in order to exist on the inside, you have to continue to play the part. And the minute you don't play that part on the inside, that system spits you out.
Sometimes. So I will say this, right?
All the time.
So if we're talking about Kamala specifically, right? And as a DA, most black people, we have a hate relationship with district attorneys because we always getting prosecuted and on trumped up charges and yada yada yada, right?
And the issue and for people out there who might debate and say, well, niggas always doing crimes. The issue is that
that's not what I'm saying.
The issue is that black people go to jail for largely more time than counterparts for the same
crimes.
And that's
correct. And correct. And then on the heels of what you just said, when you look at her record as a DA, she flipped that upside down. So it wasn't a whole bunch of black people getting locked up on some trumped up charges, right? When you look at people who got locked up for weed, dropped dramatically between her predecessor and her. Like she did things specifically that you would want somebody in that role to do that would level the playing field.
And I think that when we talk about representation, it really matters on that level, right? Because a white judge looking at me like a black man who went to college and does all these other things, it's hard for them to have any empathy beyond
Correct.
for those things because
So you
you
want
don't
a
you don't
black
you
judge
don't you
with
don't
your experience in
ex-
that position so they can
exactly
have that empathy,
exactly. There's a
right?
little bit more
And that
empathy. Yeah.
and that's how you tear down the system from the inside. You make it so that
But I don't think that tears
this
down.
becomes more commonplace.
I don't think that tears down a system though.
That helps too. I'm not saying
I
I'm
mean,
not saying
I think it lightens the load, but it
yes.
doesn't. The
It
system is
lightens the load so
yeah.
that the people with fighting from the outside have a better chance of
There
winning.
so
Right?
there is some benefit. There is some
Right.
benefit, but
Well,
again, I think that the terminology is off. To say to tear down the system from the inside, it never happens that way. But to
all the time.
to
All the time.
but to lessen the system's blow, yeah, you can do that from the inside. You can do that
It-
from the inside
so,
because
so I'll say it like this: it's two different.
because
It's
regardless, you still gotta give a nigga. You still gotta give somebody a ticket. You still gotta give somebody a sentence. You still gotta. You're still doing those things. That's the system's work.
Look, I'm
But
not saying that Kamala never locked up black people. Some of those
yeah,
black people she locked up probably were guilty. You know what I'm saying? But there were also some people that her predecessor probably would have sent to prison for quite a long time when she was like, nah, we're gonna put him on a work program. We're gonna give him some help so he can get himself a better position for him and his family. That's what she did as DA. She did her job the way that we would want somebody in that position to do that job. And I don't hold that against her. I want people like that in those positions. I want people like that to be judges so that when you get locked up and you got weed in the car, you're not getting sent to jail because you got weed in the car. You know what I mean? I want a judge that's going to look at you and say, you know what? This dude got a future. I'm not going to put him in jail for that.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's what I want to happen. And that's what she did. Yeah, she did her job. She did it well.
yeah. And
I think that's something she should have had.
yeah,
She should have had.
and I feel like if there's anyone listening, they want to argue to the point that that very same lightening of the load, that very same altering of the system could exist at the presidential level, and I don't disagree with that, right? I mean, Kamala even talked about doing like a loan program to support black male business owners and things like that, and mental health and all this stuff. But again, it brings me back to the point that you see you're in somewhat of a dilemma with black male voters, and then you specifically address that market, but when you had the conversation about reparations, your immediate response was, I'm not just going to do something for one group of people. Nobody said that in asking you that question. We're asking you a specific question about reparations that pertains to a specific group of people. Just because you are going to evaluate that, or you're going to, that's something that needs to be discussed, right, doesn't mean that immediately your response should be to deflect and saying, I'm going to do something for everyone, right? So,
I think that's called really, really good strategy. I'm on the record of saying
I think it's
that
just called politics, honestly.
politics is about strategy. So I'm on record as saying that there's only two things that can get the MAGA people to abandon Trump. There's only two things that I can think of. One of them, get rid of guns. If Trump comes out there and says we're getting rid of the Second Amendment, no more guns, they're gone overnight.
Which you wouldn't do.
He wouldn't do. He can't do it. It's political suicide. They will be gone. The second
Even
thing
though the
that would get,
president doesn't even have the ability to
he
actually
doesn't, but
change it.
if he campaigned on that, there's no way he would win. No way he would win.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I can think of, I mean, this dude can literally do anything other than these two things. The second thing would be if he said, we are going to give reparations for black people. He wouldn't stand a chance to win. Political suicide. The MAGA cult would immediately disband. Immediately. Those are the
Let's
only
evaluate that for a second.
Mhm.
So, okay. This is a great hypothetical. So, and I can't even say if Trump said it smart enough. So I'll just give you a hypothetical. If Kamala run on her very same platform, Kamala ran on her very same platform, and Trump ran on his very same platform, but he said he was going to work within the realm of his power to provide reparations to black people.
Immediate loss. Because his base are the white people who can't stand that shit. That's his base.
But here,
That is his entire base. They would leave me.
but here's my thing. Because it's that would be the crazy ass thing to say, because it's like it doesn't does it flip liberals? Like, because do white people not
No, it doesn't flip
because
liberals.
do white liberals get even more racist and say, oh yeah, another reason to not vote for him, right? But you're gonna go and vote for Kamala. You know what I'm saying? I
Let's
kind of
say, let's say hypothetically, let's play this hypothetical out,
yeah
right? Let's say exactly what you just said.
yeah
Kamala's campaign is the same, his is the same, plus reparations. Let's say that 100% of black people went over to Trump, right?
yeah
He would still lose because
yeah
he would lose about 25-30% of the white vote that he had.
yeah
Immediate loss.
yeah.
Immediate loss. No way.
Damn,
Not a chance in hell.
that's
Those are
true.
the only two things. I can't think of anything else. Like he could literally be found on tape raping somebody, and they would be like, I mean, she must have deserved it.
Nah. Well, I mean,
I'm telling you, dude. Like
when we are you talking about those voters? Yeah.
they would be like nah, that's AI, that's artificial intelligence. That ain't really him. They would come up with something. Like,
but to the extent, and I think that this is a little bit of the privilege in being a white politician is that you're not expected to talk about those things, but as black people, we have the expectation for a black person to.
but
And I
again, I think it's strategy. I think it's good strategy because
It's politics.
when you
It's
when
not
you
strategy.
talk, if you want to talk about reparations, the only people you're going to win over is black people. You're not, she knows in
I
her
mean,
strategies,
you would hope white liberals to really be quote unquote
you
liberals too.
already got white liberals. You don't need white liberals. You need white independents and white conservatives to come over to you. They
Mm.
got enough
Yeah,
liberals.
that's why she lost. That's why she lost.
They're not, you don't need any more liberals. They got plenty of liberals.
Yeah,
You
but
need the
I think
other folks.
yeah, because reparations probably wouldn't do anything to them. You might
And
need to.
you're not winning those people over with that messaging.
But I think another aspect of like Kamala is like just a lot of people feel like she was just very disingenuous. Like they have like numerous videos of her like staging shit. Like, and don't get me wrong, like Trump probably. Well, I I'm sorry to
I'll
say
say
this.
probably, definitely. Everything
No
is,
no no I don't like saying it because it's like that's a person's life. But I don't mean this in a bad way.
I'll say it.
But
I'll say it. I'll say it. That was staged. You know it. I know it. That was not above board. But again, whatever.
I don't like playing around with stuff like that.
Look,
But yeah,
his entire being is about being staged. His whole being as a successful businessman is staged. He's a very unsuccessful businessman.
so
The opposite of a successful businessman.
so
Look, they said that if he took the money that he was inherited and just sat it in the bank, he would be richer now than he would have been if he did all the stuff that he did with it. That's how bad of a businessman he.
and we would still be making songs like "Up Like Donald Trump." Huh?
Yeah, but he's a successful con man. He's
Mhm.
a very successful con man. Con man's whole thing is about perception, imagery, selling something. He's a salesman. He's a used car
I
salesman.
mean, let's
Very
be real.
good at it.
Let's be real. When we say selling something, when we say all these things, we're talking about politics, bro. Like they're all
Yes, he's selling.
everybody
He's
everybody's playing the
he's
game. Everybody's
he
playing the
sold
game.
he sold a whole bunch of poor white people on the idea that he's just like them. He's a salesman. He's a con man.
I
He's a
mean,
horrible businessman, though. Very bad business.
but let's be real. Is he really like? I understand he's class is a conversation, but to white people, especially poor whites, I mean, they enjoy seeing successful white men the same way black people enjoy seeing rappers flaunt money and jewelry.
Yeah. It's called
Like
perception
we
becomes
yeah
reality.
we are
It- it-
tricked.
it-
But that's my point. That goes back to another point. We are tricked into believing that those are the people we should idolize, or those are the people that we should rejoice in, which is why Kamala put them motherfuckers on the stage. But I think a lot of black people are we are innately I think conscious thinkers in some ways where we will question something very quickly whether or not it's in our favor. And I think when you put Meg The Stallion and Quavo on a stage, people started to question like, what do you what?
no, you
And
didn't. I
okay, all
disagree
right.
with that,
I mean,
man. Because for
you saw the media response to that.
every one person that you might get the question, you probably get one or two people that's going to be like, "Oh, yo, that's dope." Because again, the
One
reason
and two out of 10.
you meet people where they are, right? So the goal
No, no, no.
you'll
See, but
put
but
you'll
but but no, no. See, that's the issue. You meet people where you perceive they are, right?
no
And that's the
no
issue with because society perceives us as black people a lot stupider than what we are,
right,
right?
but my point is this. My point is this. When you have a Kerry Washington or Common or somebody else that is of higher regard, right? You get the people who look at them and respect them, and you get them to vote for you. Then
But
you look at
but
somebody
but
like
what
a
is the
Quavo.
what is the respect for a Quavo, a Meg Thee Stallion? There is no
People
respect.
like them.
No, no, no,
People
no,
like
no.
them.
Time out. Like I said, we like them in the club. We like them on our radio. We don't
You'd
like
be
we don't
amazed. They
we
like them
don't
as
we don't
people.
we don't we don't like them when we're talking about the politics for our life. But
You ain't
but but
talking
but but
about
but
those
but the,
people. Those
but
people are not out there to get your vote. They're out
but
there to get the other votes.
but that's my thing though. It tells you what they think of us. And it says that they don't think that in political settings, in settings where we are making decisions that could impact our lives, that
And
we don't care to have proper representation. That's what that says.
it is proper representation. It's the representation of the person that you identify with.
Glorilla, Quavo, and Meg Thee Stallion
That's not all that she had on
is
stage.
proper
That's one of
representation
the
for black people. But
for a person.
they shouldn't have been there to begin with.
I don't have a problem with them being there. I really don't. Because again, you're not.
Hey Lamba,
They're they're not there for everyone.
get on your soapbox for the people real quick. I'll be right back.
They're not there for everyone.
Talk to the people. Talk to the chat.
Yo, when you put Meg and Glow and all of them on that stage, they're not there for everyone. They're there for the people who they're there to speak to. All right. The same way is if you put a Denzel Washington or whatever, somebody that's 19 years old don't connect with Denzel Washington, right? Or Kerry Washington or whoever else she's got on stage. But they'll connect with Glorilla. They like Glorilla songs. If Glorilla say vote for Kamala, I'm voting for Kamala too. And that's how they feel about it. And you're welcome to come back now.
You ran out of stuff to talk about. Come on, man.
It was a quick point.
You're live on YouTube, man. You gotta keep the people busy.
It was a quick point. No, but
But no,
that's
no, no. So I think we've again talked a lot of things into a dead horse. And I guess in concluding all of this, Trump is president for the next 4 years, whether you like it or not. That's the case.
maybe for the next four if they don't get JD Vance in there.
What do you mean? So you talking about if he passes away or something?
Nah, there's I'll say this. There's a large section of the population that believes that the point all along was to get JD Vance in there. They're gonna do the 25th Amendment type thing and get Trump out of there.
I mean,
And
either way, it's still a white guy. It's still a
very much.
Republic. Still a white guy, a Republican in the White House. And it's not Kamala. And it's and not to say that everybody wanted her to win. You know what I mean? But it's just like, unfortunately, I'm in Maryland or not unfortunately, but yeah, a little bit unfortunately. Unfortunately, I'm in Maryland where we go blue, and if you don't go blue, then you're a problem because of all the problems that Democrats say you're a problem for. When I think that if a person votes for something, so what, right? But I don't. If someone says things like, "Oh, this is going to affect generations," or "Oh, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to America," "Oh my God, we're doomed," like all of this shit, it just to me it's just so fucking laughable. Like, you know what I'm saying? That people really believe that this decision is going to that degree impact your life.
Jordan, when
Which
I was around your age, now I was a little bit younger than you. I was a little bit young. There was a guy who told me um, when Bush got elected, this is going to be as bad as people are saying it is. And I sounded exactly the same way that you sound.
Listen,
Right
no,
now,
no, 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 no,
everything
no,
that
no,
you
no, no,
just
no.
said,
We
I
gotta put this in. We
sounded
gotta put this in
exactly.
perspective. We gotta put that in this in perspective. Trump was. I mean, Bush was horrible. He was
Wait a
bad.
minute.
Bush was
Wait a minute.
horrible, bro. He was bad, bro. He was
Yeah.
bad. We've had Trump already, and I can tell you he was better than fucking Bush. And I remember Bush, and I was like young at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I disagree. I disagree that he was
come
better than Bush.
on, bro.
At
Come
least
on.
Bush was at least competent, halfway competent. This dude is not competent.
I mean,
Like he's not competent.
I wouldn't say that he's not. Well, okay, competence is different than yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah.
again,
You're right. You're right.
but the point that I was trying to
But
say is
maybe they just show him in the bad light too often. I don't know.
the point I'm trying to make is there were people that was sounding the alarm. It's going to be bad. A Bush presidency is going to be really, really bad. And I was one of the ones that's like, it's not going to be all that. We'll be all right. I sounded exactly the same way that you sound.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, and again, history told the story. It was that bad, maybe
But
worse.
I mean, we said this. We were even worse the first time Trump won. It's just like
It was that
we
bad though. It was that bad, dude. We lit.
I was okay. I was okay. You know what I'm saying?
Dude,
I was okay.
as a country,
Mm.
and probably I can put that even further in the country. Like we live through a
What
pandemic
one thing I'm saying? Well, okay,
that
a pandemic isn't a president's fault, but
it is the
all
president's fault.
oh god.
The way that it was handled is on him.
Even though most of the decisions on how it was handled came down to congressional decision,
It was it
like
was
come
it was
on, like we
on.
gotta stop like doing this, bro,
Dude,
because
that
like
the messaging behind the congressional messaging behind it was on him. He
but
told them
but
what to do and how
no,
to legislate that.
no, and outside of executive orders and a final hand raised on decisions that were made inside of that room, you can't put that on him. And
The people, the
not that I'm
people,
defending him, but what I am defending is the proper procedure for how things happen and to
right? But when the people who are making those decisions,
things correctly.
but when the people who are making those decisions are making those decisions off of his instruction,
They
then does
don't.
that really matter?
They're, again, as a person in the legislative branch of government, like, I mean, we've had so many people come out from the last time Trump served and speak against him, right? We've seen the record of Republicans voting against certain executive orders that he wanted to push. So again, we can't act like Trump is the person putting the battery in the back of
It is
of everybody
of
getting
enough of enough to matter, enough to matter. So if you want to talk,
I won't disagree with you there. I won't disagree with you there. But again, I just it's I just feel like you're making it seem like it's that person's decision when that person in Congress made that decision. So I'm sorry.
okay, but that again, that person made that decision. We just saw it with
No,
the immigration bill.
that's not the same thing.
It is the same
Because as
thing.
much as people want to blame that on Trump, again, right? These mofo's made a decision. I don't like
Based on what though?
based on the fact that they're in positions to do things and they made their own
Okay,
decisions. And in fact,
I'm not. Just to make sure
right.
we have a base understanding of what happened there. That was a
So for the
bipartisan bill.
last 4 years, Trump has been influencing the decisions
Yes.
of senators and
Yes.
congressmen,
Dude,
or that
I-
sit on Congress, even though this
dude,
motherfucker
this is not
been in litigation since
dude.
however what.
This is not my opinion.
Yeah.
This is not conjecture. This is based on what he said and what
Mhm.
they're saying. Again, the immigration bill
Well,
that
fact check
that
Google.
was a bipartisan
Fact check.
bill.
Factcheck.com says you're absolutely wrong.
Okay, look up that immigration bill, right? It
I'm
was again, it was a
literally-
bipartisan bill.
I'm looking at is this Trump's fault? It says no. It says,
What does it say?
It says no. This is not Trump's fault, right?
What does it say?
The congressional, the Senate voted, right,
Mhm.
in favor of not advancing the bill. So
Why?
And at the time,
Why?
and at the time, Trump was not in politics. He was
Right,
he
but
was not in a
again,
position
stop.
in politics.
Dude, you're looking at the wrong stuff. You have to listen to what the people are saying. The people.
Again, I think.
Wait, listen to me. Listen to me.
I think,
Listen
Lama,
to
I
me.
think Lama. Listen, I think that what you have to be very careful in doing when you communicate is the difference between painting narratives and
It's not a narrative, dude. I'm talking about what they're telling you.
in understanding the facts.
These are the
again.
facts.
I'm not saying your narrative can't be true, or can't have some facts involved with it.
No, it's not some
right?
facts. This is all
not-
100% factual.
No, it can't be.
It is what I'm telling.
can't- it
Listen,
can't
listen
be.
to me. Listen to me. The
Because
people-
because if we talk about the absolute facts of it all, who makes the decision on what is passed in the Senate? People.
Why are they making that decision, Jordan?
People in the Senate, right? We can speculate on why they made that decision, but no,
We're not speculating. We don't have to speculate. They're telling you.
But no one put a gun to their head and forced them to do something. Right?
Yeah, I'm right. But they're still acting on instruction.
So if a person chose to align with Republican values and stay true to the home team, that was their decision.
That's not what happened, Jordan.
But what you don't do is say a person who is not in a position to press a button or raise their hand or put together an executive bill is the reason for something happening.
Jordan, I don't think you have a correct understanding of what happened. Again,
we talked about this already.
Wait a minute.
But I'm saying you keep painting narratives instead of
that's not a narrative.
Actual facts.
That is an actual fact. I'm trying to tell you what the actual fact is. The Republicans put out a checklist. These are the things that we want in an immigration bill.
Okay,
that's
so again,
they gave them 100%.
A Republican making a decision to stay true to a home team decision is a Republican decision. I'm not done yet. You don't get to say Trump is the reason for that decision.
I'm not done yet. So they came up with the checklist. These are the things that we want in the bill. The Democrats said, cool, you have all of that stuff and more. They gave them more than what they asked for. The Republicans were all the way on board. And right before the bill got passed, Trump made a call. He called some of the senators, kill that bill, because if that bill passes, I can't win the presidency. Right. And they said, okay. And they filibustered.
So did Trump wake up the next day, go to his Senate bench and press the button no?
Doesn't matter. What I'm trying to tell you,
because when we're talking, listen to me, Lama. If I tell a bus driver to go crash a bus at 3:00 on Tuesday on I-95, did I crash a bus?
It depends on how much power you have over that person.
Did I crash a bus?
It depends on how much power you have over that person.
I told him I'll give you $1 million to go crash a bus. That's money is power. Did I crash the bus? No, he did it. No, listen to me. No, I didn't. He crashed the bus for $1 million. So regardless of whether or not I got the power to do something, you made a decision, right? You made a decision. So I understand what you're saying. The narrative is that it was motivated.
It's not narrative, dude. That's not narrative.
The narrative is that it was motivated by a party-aligned decision, which is very true.
It wasn't a party-aligned decision. It was
Is Trump a Republican?
The party wanted that bill.
Is Trump a Republican?
The party wanted that bill.
Is Trump a Republican? Yes, yes. Trump is a Republican.
No.
The decision that they made was because of the power that Trump had, right?
He's cosplaying as a Republican, but what I'm telling you is
the decision that they made was because Trump had the power to motivate that decision. Is what you're saying, right?
So Jordan, let me ask you a question.
It was a party-aligned decision.
Jordan,
That's
let
all
me
I'm trying
ask
to
you.
get you to understand. Like
Let me ask you. Let me ask you,
do you not understand that Republicans are Republicans for a reason? They're
Jordan.
gonna make the Republican
Jordan.
decision.
But what I'm telling you
But
is
what you
that's
don't
not what happened. It wasn't a party line decision. It was more Republicans who wanted the bill passed than Republicans who didn't.
exactly. So Republicans made a party aligning decision.
No, that's the opposite of what you're saying. The opposite of what you're
When you
saying.
vote
There
in
are Republicans.
when you vote and align with your party,
No,
you're
what I'm saying,
voting with what your party wants to do.
what I'm saying is the Republicans wanted the bill passed, is what I'm
Exactly.
telling you.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
The Republicans wanted the bills passed, but it was enough of them
Yeah.
to say, no, we're not going to pass it for it to happen. It wasn't party aligned.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. My fault. I'm misread. You're right. I remember. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. I'm sorry. Damn, we just went on a tangent, and I'm totally wrong. But yeah. You're right. It wasn't a party line.
I want to bring that back to the original point. The original point was,
but to your original point, right? Trump motivating that decision, even though Trump did motivate that decision, right? You still don't get to say Trump did it, because that person could have made whatever decision they wanted to make.
yes, you can still say that because what's his name? Charles Manson didn't kill nobody. Like he had people killing people for him, and he still went down for that. Osama bin Laden ain't flying not a single goddamn plane.
You're right, but you're wrong at the same time.
That's how it works. When you put that flag out there and say, "Hey, go do this thing,"
Yeah.
you're responsible for it happening.
You're right, but you're wrong. But you're right. You're right, but you're wrong. But you're right. Damn. All right, cool, man. We've been talking too long, man. We an hour and 35 minutes into this, and we probably been arguing for the last 30 minutes about the same shit. So taking this home, Llama. Taking this home. What's next for America? How do we prepare? What do we do?
I do not know, man. It
Is
depends.
Is it all over? Is it as
I
bad
don't
as they
know.
is it as bad as they say it is?
Um,
Or is it just the same old system sustaining itself with another
no, I actually
with another dummy at the wheel?
I think this is something else. And the reason why I say that is I'm just looking at what Trump did on his first term, right? The only reason that Trump's first term wasn't as bad as it could have been is because there were people in place that kept that from happening. And he won't make that mistake again. He's going to make sure he puts people in positions that's going to do what he wants them to do, regardless of how they feel about it. And if they don't want to do it, he's going to have them replaced. That's the lesson he learned from his first term. Watch how there won't be a whole lot of people confirmed for positions. He's going to have a whole bunch of acting this and acting that because he learned that.
Do you think everything that he does that's different, people are going to be hypercritical of and make it seem like he's trying to secure even more power?
For him, it's not about power.
But I feel like people, whenever he does something, and even the first time, whenever he did anything, they just made it seem like it was just the worst thing in the world. Oh my God, he's doing this now. It's gonna make us. Oh my God, he's doing, like, I feel like if Trump woke up and said, "I'm gonna give 200 million to Ukraine and 300 million to Israel," we would start getting critical. Like the media would be like, "Oh my God, he's making a horrible decision. Oh my God."
Well, first of all, I think we have to understand that Trump isn't that smart of a person. Like he's not an intelligent
Not that I feel
type
like any president really is, but okay.
of. He's a different type though. Like the people around him know that he's an idiot.
I think Kamala was smart, but I mean,
No, no, we know that she's smart, but this dude is a
I don't
different.
think Biden was smart. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I don't
No,
think
He's brilliant. He's just old. He's fucking old, but he's absolutely brilliant.
Biden was brilliant when stopping frisk.
If you let him, if you sit him down and talk about foreign policy, you'll be like, this dude knows a lot of stuff. He's a very smart person. Trump's not that guy. He doesn't read. He doesn't know anything about anything. He's not a
But
smart
how can you
person.
assume that though? How can you assume?
Huh?
How can you assume
What
that?
do you mean? How can I assume? They're telling you this. He doesn't read anything.
How can you
He
assume?
didn't read the briefings and stuff like that. They had to. He had to have an entire staff put in place to write things in big letters and basically dumb it down to like a third grade level because he does not read. He's that guy. So again, none of this is really about whether he's smart enough to do X, Y, Z, because again, he's not in it for power. At this point, the only reason why he ran for re-election in the first place is to keep his ass out of prison. That's why he ran. But there are other people who wanted him to run so they can accomplish the things that they want to accomplish. That's the whole Project 2025 conversation, right? We didn't even want to have that.
But yeah,
We're not going to have that
we
conversation
have
here.
to have
But
that
yes, I
conversation.
do believe that 100% those people have an
But do you
agenda.
agree with disagree with Project 2025 though?
Yes.
I don't. There are
Yes,
parts of it,
100%.
but there are parts of it I agree with, but there are parts of it I don't agree with.
I as a whole, as an entire document, if I found 5% of it that I agree with, it's still 95% trash. Still 95% trash.
I would say about 25 to 30% I agree with.
It's still 75 to 80%, 65, 70% trash.
Yeah.
That's a lot of trash, my dude. It's absolute trash.
That is the dictionary. No.
It's absolute trash. So you don't want that. But again, those people are the ones that are power hungry, and those are the ones that's going to be pushing the agenda. But again, my point is, I don't necessarily know what's next because it really depends on if he's able to do the things that he wants to do, and I think he will be because we saw that towards the end of his last term, he didn't have any like attorney generals. He had like acting attorney general, acting secretary of this, acting secretary of that, because he knows that trying to get these people confirmed, he's not going to be able to get these people confirmed. But he can still run a department with acting heads. And he'll do that as long as he can until somebody stops him. The question is, are people actually going to try to stop him? I don't believe so. I don't believe
So
that this.
do you think I mean these next 4 years we're just headed down because again the reason why like I am not so as you say I guess
I'll tell you what's going to happen. The same thing that always happens.
I've been on mute this entire time.
What do you mean? The whole time?
Yeah, you've been able to hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What I believe is going to happen.
Wait, I think you could hear me. But okay, go ahead.
What I think is going to happen is what always happens. A Republican comes in office. They ride the successful presidency of the one before. So the economy is all of a sudden going to be outstanding. They're going to be like, yo, employment's down, inflation's down, and they're going to be like, this is a great thing. And he's going to fuck it up. He's going to fuck it up. And then he's going to fuck it up so bad that a Democrat gets in office and then get blamed for not cleaning it up fast enough. The same thing that happens on cycle, rinse and repeat. That's what's going to happen.
So, I mean, is that not the current reality though for him?
No, I mean that's perception. That's the perception of it. All of the things that we say.
I'm not defending anything, right? But I'm just asking the question. You just said he gets in there, fucks up the economy, and then somebody else is left to clean it up. Is this like first 2 years not a cleanup job for him?
It's not a cleanup job.
And I think a lot of this shit is
No. You got to understand something. I don't think you really understand what's going on. We are having an outstanding economy. Everything is fucking great. Prices aren't high because the economy is fucked up. Prices are high because companies are fucking greedy. There's nothing to clean up. It's been cleaned up. If you look at inflation of where it was when Biden got in office and where it is now, you'd be like, ah, damn. If you look at unemployment where it was, GDP where it was, the stock market where it was, everything that you would, the job, manufacturing jobs, everything is through the fucking roof.
Used you for Biden. I think you're caping.
I'm not caping. I'm just telling. Well, okay, I'll say this. Watch what happens. Give it to about.
I mean, the news doesn't even agree with you about the economy, though.
They do, because the only thing that people don't agree with are the prices.
Llama, I've never heard the news in the last 6 months say that our economy is in a fantastic position.
Turn to Fox News. Turn to Fox News, who you know is right leaning. Every jobs report that comes out, they're like, this is a great jobs report. You know they can't. They hate to admit
And
it.
it's not. And again, it's I think it's more than just what the news is saying. It's also how people feel. I do
But
agree.
again, people feel
I do agree with you on companies being greedy. But what I was going to say is I think a lot of this is just companies getting COVID back in blood. I'm gonna just be real, and that Biden and Kamala are being blamed for it. And
say this one more time. Companies are doing what?
they're trying to get COVID back in blood.
Back in what?
Back in blood. So it's like basically getting revenge, right?
I got you. I got you. I got you.
Yeah, so it's a play on a song called "Back in Blood"
I got you.
by a popular artist.
Um,
But what I'm
I'm
saying, but
yeah. It's definitely that. It's
because
basically like, yo, we raised prices during COVID because we had to.
no
We're not.
prices, they lost a lot of money during COVID, and now they try and get all that money back.
They've been got that money back.
You think
They've
so?
been got it back.
But they man, when I tell you it's expensive out here now, bro. For what?
Right, but that's the whole point. It's not Kamala and Joe Biden's fault. Every every
It is the
every
economy.
mark of the economy is sky fucking high, and you're going to know this around June
Yeah.
when all of a sudden the economy is going to be fucking doing gangbusters, and people going to be like, "Yo, see, that's the Trump effect. He ain't do
But
shit."
Lama, if you can, before we go into another 4 hours, you got anything promising for people out there that are panicking or that might be feeling a little discouraged at the moment?
Nah.
Also, just continue to feel fucked up, is what you're saying.
I honestly don't, man. Feel how you feel.
I think you're gonna be okay. I think you're
I'll
gonna
say
be
okay. I'll say this. I'll find a silver lining. There have always been people, and I've always disagreed with them. That said that you might have been one of them. That said that a Trump presidency would be good for Black people because it would force us to unite.
And you know what's fucking crazy about that saying? It's been stolen by so many people, and I hate the fact like so many people
So
have stolen that from me,
so
and
if
and
if
and, and
if
they
that's if that's how
and they confuse it for my promotion of Trump, and it's not me promoting Trump, right? It's me
just the
being
reality of the
it's being
situation.
it's me being real about how our collective consciousness responds to politics that's not in our favor, right?
Right. So if that's the direction that we want to go with it, if a Trump presidency will bring about some unity, then now was our time to shine.
I totally
And
agree. I
that
totally
that would
agree.
be that'll be the silver
But
lining that.
here's where I feel like we sort of get divisive within our own community. Some of us will say, "Oh, well, well, at least Maryland went blue in the Senate, right?" Not that that really means as much because from what I hear, Republicans rule the fucking Senate now. And so I just feel like okay, we got it good in blue states, but what does that mean for people in red states, right? And so that goes back to the whole question around identity politics and why it didn't work. And as we talk about the black collective consciousness, are we now more American than we are black? Has America's Americanization and colonization finally set in? You have black people out here that are delineating themselves from other black people by saying that, oh, I'm a foundational black American. I and my family have been here in the United States since enslavement, and people from Jamaica and from Haiti, you're not black like me. I am an American, and they need to have some sense of a pride in their Americanization. And what people don't realize is when you accept that, when you refuse to acknowledge your origin as a person, you're accepting colonization. You're accepting that programming, right? And I'm not saying disavow it and not acknowledge a portion of what impacted your history, but I think we do have to acknowledge the fact that enslavement of African people is not African history. It interrupted African history, right? And so until it's acknowledged, we have to continue to talk about it. But we are very much Africans, and we are from the continent of Africa, and that is our nation, and we should have ownership of that. But it seems as though we are selling out to the idea that we are Black Americans, and that is our identity more than we are African. And so I think some people are happy that Trump won because Kamala is a person that is the antithesis of an idea like that. And so when we really have the conversation of what does this look like, what is our success, I mean, then we talk about the black bourgeoisie as well, the middle class, who you're just worried about how you interact with the power structure, right? And what you feel like is going to be best for your kids and your family and the money in your pocket, when the reality of it all is the system will always be the system regardless who's there. And you can talk shit about how stupid this person is, or how non-black this person is, or how old this person is, or how this person doesn't know what the hell they're doing. If you read the fucking job description of a president, all of the shit you're saying is going to impact us is truly only being impacted on a congressional level. Those are the people who are really making the decisions. The judicial branch, those are the people really making the decisions. And I think it's about time people really, really acknowledge that and understand just how insignificant Donald Trump as a president is. You can turn the fucking TV off and never watch anything from him this entire 4 years and just pay attention to what Congress is doing. Just pay attention to what the judicial branch is doing. And you'll know enough about what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Jordan Reviews It. It's a long one, I know, but I think you needed it. A lot of people out there are frustrating. I am apparently public enemy number one to every black person in the state of Maryland that I know right now, even though I didn't vote for Trump, but I also didn't vote for Kamala, and I don't agree with either of them because, hey, I voted for the Green Party, Jill Stein and Butch Ware, because I think that their policies are the most progressive. And so call it a waste of a vote, call it what you want to, but if everybody in the United States voted for them, the issue we have in Israel would be a priority for them to end, right? Reparations would definitely be a discussion, and we would have real progressive, liberal, and I would say, in a way, revolutionary concepts within the White House. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all. Hope you enjoyed the show. Give a hand to Lama. I really want to thank you for being here.
No doubt, man.
Got to do this again sometime. Ladies and gentlemen,
Sure.